Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode this week with Sónia Won. Hey Sónia, welcome back.
Hi Vasco, thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So Sónia, on Wednesdays we explore change because obviously change is one of the most important aspects of the work of the Scrum Master. We were just yesterday talking about how the solution comes from the team. And of course, that's one aspect that we need to understand when it comes to change, because motivation is what drives change forward. But let's dive into one of those stories, Sónia. Share with us a story of a change process you were involved with. Walk us through the steps, how they happen over time. And as you go through the steps, highlight for us the tips, the tricks, the tools, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
One of the effective, I would say effective because it changed my way of doing Scrum and see Scrum, was when I was at EDP. I became Scrum Master of one of the teams. EDP, of course, for those who don't know, is one of the big energy utilities in Portugal. So it's not software related, but of course depends on software as all most of the business, the entire world. And as lots of companies, they decided to help their teams and help their software teams becoming more product focus, product team focus. What I say that is that instead of having a provider that usually it's as we know, common pattern around the world, having a provider taking care of software completely disconnected from the company, completely disconnected from the business. They realize that they really need to be more focused on the business side. So it was a huge transformation when I was there. I became Scrum Master in 2018. They started their transformation. I don't like this word, but it's actually what happened there. They transformed IT department completely disconnected from the business and almost provided by external partners into product teams, feature teams, product teams, completely dedicated.
But did they kind of almost stop completely the use of external teams and they brought the teams internally, or how did that work?
No. It was the strategy was setting up product teams or feature teams with an internal product owner, always from the business. So the company is a holding, lots of companies, a group of companies, and every single company had two nominated product owners from the business. And the Scrum Master was always from the IT department, but the developers were always, most of the time, were always providers.
The difference was companies, right?
External companies, but the difference was that there were dedicated teams for that feature, for that product, with a dedicated product owner sitting by the team.
Product owner and Scrum Master were from the company, and then the developers came from consulting companies outside, but they were dedicated to each of the teams they were working in.
Exactly, Vasco. And that was the big difference. And that was a huge and successful change that I see there. As I said, this way of thinking and the way of working was changing already since 2014. But when I was there and when I became Scrum Master there in 2018, finally the company was really into the decisions of spreading around the whole group. We are talking about a company around, at that time, we were 12,000 people. So spread around not only in Portugal, but also in Brazil and Poland and United States. I think some Spain also. So some parts of the companies were also spread around the world. So it was already a big scale, and at that time we started to spread around the group what became a success within one of the companies that we experiment and tried.
So that was the first step then, like experiment
the first step,
the transformation
yes,
within one company,
one of
see
the
how it
companies.
works, and then spread it to the
Exactly.
rest of the group.
Exactly. And it became a success. The difference was huge because they were really used to have a providers working in a waterfall, setting up a project for entire 3 years. And some of the times, unfortunately, as we know, after their 3 years, well, it is not what it is already not
Obviously, because
responding to.
it was done 3 years ago. So how can it be
Exactly.
applicable to today's reality? So tell us a little
Yes.
bit more. So what were some of the key things that enabled that transition from fully external teams working in waterfall to
Yeah.
internally focused, although they were staffed from consulting companies, but internally focused and product focused teams? Like, what were the key aspects from your experience that enabled that change?
Depends. It's always depends, Vasco. The pain that the company was really struggling with lack of solutions. They were completely stuck with old applications that were designed in waterfall. They were maintained from external companies that they were not probably most of the times not able to respond timely and effectively. And the company decided no, we cannot continue this way. We cannot be in the hands of our providers that are not able to respond on our needs because things are moving fast, so fast that we really need to be focused on our needs.
So,
So that's how.
if I understood correctly, so like there were a couple of steps, right? So they did the pilot in one of the companies. They
Yes,
decided to source Scrum Masters and product owners from the business and from the IT department.
exactly.
What else were the kind of the building blocks of that change?
Um, it was also that was we started an Agile Competence Center. I know that this is kind of polemic, but for these big companies, it's important because we have so many bureaucracies like that, ISOs, and being compliant with the security or the all that kind of things that the companies really need to be in terms of legal. We really need to be compliant. So we set up at that time I joined. Also, after becoming Scrum Master, I became the Agile coach leading that Agile Competence Center that was holding and helping the company to set up whatever they need. So every time there was a need of a problem to be solved, an application that was not working properly, we were there to supporting them. So we as Agile coaches were supporting the setup of new product or feature teams with a specific goal, and that was the key of the success of this kind of transformation because they were not setting up by themselves. There was a team that has lots of experience of the different parts of the process through the years, through the different companies that were continuously collecting uh, what things go wrong, what things go well, what worked, what did not work, adapting all the time. And we were setting not a rigid process, but at least the baseline of, for example, I can give you an example. If a team wanted to start something, we set up a product vision workshop. So we already have designed a product vision workshop where the product owner of the business and all the stakeholders were together, thinking about what is the need, what makes sense to do here, if it's a product team or it would be a feature team, dedicated feature team with how many and what kind of team members that they need, technologies, and so on and so forth. So I believe that one of the key for this kind of business, big business scaling, trying to scaling and adapting to this VUCA world of adapting the software to the business was having this team supporting. We call it Agile Competence Center. We could call it another name, but the thing is that this team was centralizing what happened in the past, what could happen in the future. We were also helping and leveraging skills of the Scrum Masters, the product owners, and I think that was the key of the success of
Another
this
another thought
transformation.
that comes to
Mhm.
mind is that through this Agile Competence Center, you at the time the company was also able to spin up new teams, right? Like teams that
Yes.
had no background in the waterfall world. Maybe some
Hmm.
team members had, but the team as a whole did not. And having that, let's call it established, lightweight, but clearly defined process of spinning up new teams
Hmm.
helps to get rid of the baggage, right? Because if
Exactly.
you just try to change old teams to a new way of working, there's all the baggage they bring with them.
Yeah.
But when you spin up new teams in the
New
new way
teams.
of working with the support
Exactly.
of the Agile Competence Center, then you can really
Exactly.
get them out of the old world and into the new world right away.
Exactly. And more than that, there was the big opportunity since from scratch that a product owner from the business was um, able to decide what they want, and having a full dedicated team that they were not used to. They were used to, hey, I have a problem and I have to open a ticket for
And then
some
wait 3
provider.
years.
Exactly. And now I will wait for some years. And this is a completely different scenario. They were completely overwhelmed with surprised with, oh my God, I have a dedicated team to my needs, to my business needs that are actually delivering in Scrum every single sprint. And they were completely amazed about the results. And that was the key success. It was the Scrum able to do the MVP in just a few months, is probably 2 or 3 months instead of 2 or 3 years. And that's the beauty of Scrum.
Absolutely.
Always looking into a tiny little valuable delivers every single sprint.
Absolutely. Great story. Thank you for sharing that, Sonia.
Thank you, Vasco. Always a pleasure.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.